In my last post, I talked about how the definition of independence has become increasingly gray, especially with private equity, corporate RIAs, and hybrid models reshaping the entire landscape. New concepts like super OSJ or even independent W-2 model are confusing things even further. And as an advisor, you just have to get up to speed with the vocabulary before you can even start to consider the right choice for your practice. So how do you actually evaluate your options? If you're at a wirehouse or a large firm and you're thinking about exploring independence, but you're not necessarily ready to follow your own ADV, I'm going to go through 7 critical steps to help you compare the models objectively. First, define your goals before you evaluate firms. Don't start with payouts or deal structures. Start with your goals. Do you want more control, or do you want to be a partner with someone else? Do you want ownership and equity, or a more defined deal up front? Do you need flexibility in your investments or your technology? Is building a large team part of your long-term plan? Lastly, have you put much thought into your ultimate valuation or your exit strategy, even if it's far off? Once you define your main goals or what you're solving for, the right models become much more clear. Number 2, understand 4 core models. Most advisors compare really only 2 or 3 options, but think about it as a football field, where the most restrictive option is at one end, say like a bank trust advisor, and then you move down the continuum to a wirehouse advisor, where you have the relationships, but you don't really own the client. And then you can kind of get to the 50-yard line where the hybrid models live, like the LPL or Raymond James independent model, but they're still under a broker-dealer. But it is at this point where you start to take more control of the client relationship. It's not until you get to the other side of the 50-yard line that you truly own the client. Look, to be fair, we all think we own the client, but I will be very direct and define it like this. If a client has to ACAT to follow your practice structure or your practice decisions, you don't own the client. This is the dividing line. Now, on the other side of the 50-yard line, you become truly independent. This is where everything is happening in our industry due to a number of factors. But it's gotten real complicated. I hope to shed some light on this. At a high level, there's 4 core structures. The first being full RIA, where you own the ADV, you file with the SEC, you control compliance. It's a lot of work, and generally a lot of work to go from a wirehouse, large firm, all the way to filing your own ADV. Another option is the hybrid BD, or hybrid RIA, or some call it the corporate RIA. This is like the LPL, Raymond James independent structures, where you are an RIA, but you're working under the corporate RIA owned by those firms and their corporate broker-dealer. You take control of the client and the client relationship in these, but you still have to house them within their proprietary systems. Next, you have the W-2 employee at a corporate RIA, like a Corient, where you would sell your practice to a large corporate RIA, and you essentially work as a W-2 employee under that. These things are looking more like the wirehouses than they are independents, but they are an option. And then finally, you have the partnership style RIA. This is where I am today under like a concurrent or a Wealth Partners Alliance. Each one of these offers a different level of autonomy, economics, and responsibility for you and your team, but you can't compare them until you understand them. Okay, number 3. Let's compare the economics beyond just the payout. This is where advisors start to get confused or make some mistakes. They often look at deals through the lens of a financial advisor or a broker, not as a business owner. Start to retrain your brain on this. Start to ask questions like, what is the true net payout after fees, custodial fees, tech, E&O? What's the bottom line? Do I have equity in the RIA? And how much of my entity will I control now and later? Does the RIA have equity in my practice or in my LLC? And how does that work? What is my practice worth in each model? As we compare the models, what is my practice worth today in each model? And what will it be worth in 10 years, both before tax and after tax? How does each of the different models I'm comparing define partnership? And what is expected on a multiple today and in 10 years for my practice? Look, it's math. A lower payout may be a good trade-off, as it can mean more meaningful services, helping you be more efficient, and can also mean higher ownership and creating far greater long-term value. You will no longer be an employee. You will be a business owner. So think like one. How many of your business owner clients focus on increasing their income or their salary? None. They focus on increasing their business value. They focus on creating net worth, not income. Step 4, evaluate the autonomy. Every firm says, oh, you'll have control, but dig a little bit deeper. Who controls investment decisions? Who controls investment discretion? Who controls compliance? Are you able to pick your own custodians? Can you brand yourself or your team? Can you hire your own staff? Can you manage your own team? Are tech platforms predetermined? And if so, can you add on? True independence shows up in the decisions that you're allowed to make. Step 5, look at tax structure and long-term efficiency. The difference between a W-2 and a 1099 relationship is massive and should be one of your key decision factors. 1099 allows you to control expenses, staffing, retirement plans,